I think Ric Flair he won't wrestle. I really can't see him wrestling, but to be in the ring with Sting in terms of, Flair on the side with the suit and stuff like this and cheering him at ringside and kind of being like a manager, nothing wrong with it.
All right, let's talk about Tony Khan and Sting. Tony Khan gave Sting a gift on a recent episode of AEW's Dynamite. That gift was none other than the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. Now, totally surprised, Sting was blown away. He saw Rick walk that aisle one more time, and after sharing kind words about Sting, Rick asked Sting if he could go with him on this ride of his retirement. And Sting said, come on. It's created a stir online. A lot of people, including people like, I think Vince Russo has mentioned that he thought Flair and Sting would end up being the match, the retirement match. The one that we said just a week ago, probably not the best idea. There's a lot of things when it comes to Ric Flair in AEW that worries me a little bit with Sting. And I'm just going to say this. Maybe you can tell me if you agree or disagree. When Rick is involved in a situation of somebody else, Rick tends to make the conversation always about Rick. Now, we're going to be going with Sting in his retirement. The focus should be on Sting. Is having Rick attached to Sting a good idea or a bad idea for Sting's retirement? Bill?
Oh, okay. So it's a good idea. I'll tell you why. First of all, I'm not sure Ric Flair would have gone to AEW had WWE not been sold. I think, like I said in the past, that a lot of people may not have the loyalty that they did when the company was fully McMahon owned. I think Ric Flair he won't wrestle. I really can't see him wrestling, but to be in the ring with Sting in terms of, Flair on the side with the suit and stuff like this and cheering him at ringside and kind of being like a manager, nothing wrong with it. It just enhances it. And Flair and Sting have such a great history together. I think it just adds some sweetness. And I don't think it's going to be all about Ric Flair. I think that he will make sure that he sends Sting off in the right way.
Teddy, any thoughts about Flair joining Sting over in AEW for Sting's retirement run?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of history there between those two. I don't think it's a bad idea. I just want to see now in which direction they're going to go with it. You know what I mean? I don't think it's bad if Flair's, if Sting ends his career with Rick. But, I think it's just something that if that does go that way, I think it's something where Rick needs to get himself ready, get in the gym and get himself ready if he's going to try to, to have one more match.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I'm not sure, Bill, because
I don't know. You know what I mean? We all know Flair. He's gonna go until the wheels, stop turning. So it's hard to convince him, that not to. So we just have to wait and see what happens. And if it does happen that way, I hope both men come out, without any injuries and come out looking good. And let's get out of here and enjoy the rest of your lives.
Now, during the, as Flair was there for his, getting with Sting that night, Christian Cage also came out and said a few things about Flair that shocked a lot of people. I want to read what he said. This is just kind of parts of what he said.
I was shocked.
Yes. Christian Cage said, quote, "So this is the gift Tony Khan basically gave you." He's talking to Sting. "Tony Khan basically gave you a suit, some gold chains, and a black liver." Wow. He even went on to say that he knows there must not be a God because Ric Flair should have been dead 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. Saying all this on live TV. When you saw that, Bill, because I know you were watching at that time, were you kind of shocked by the comments made?
Very, very, very much so. Ric Flair is used to being, as a wrestler and all the angles he's done, he's used to being insulted, but that went a lot further than I thought it would go.
It was really deep, I thought. And he also said is talking about Flair and everything that he thought was going on. Flair turned around. Now, this is where you said you don't think Flair will get involved again. Flair made this comment just recently. He took to social media to send a message to Christian, warning him, not saying, but warning him that he's making the mistake of making it about him. And if so, they would have a problem. So it already sounds like maybe something's being thrown out there with the possibility of Christian Cage and Ric Flair. Or is Ric Flair maybe going to tag with Sting?
Well, that's the other thing that I thought may take place. But I think if that happens, Sting will carry most of the match, and Flair and Sting will do the finish together. So it doesn't look like it was Ric Flair's last match.
Teddy?
Here's what I would do. Since Christian did that pretty much shoot promo, then I would make it all about Christian and Flair, not right away, but I would tease that so where when Flair goes in for Sting for the last ride, Christian stops it. You know what I mean? It doesn't Flair doesn't make it because Christian stops it. Now you end up having Christian giving Sting his last match.
Now, I will mention something else that came up just about Ric Flair being in AEW. Vince Russo, who, of course, is on Sportskeeda as well, made a comment. He made a comment about Ric Flair, saying Ric Flair's absolute dream is to go out in the middle of the ring. To him, it's the perfect story for the end of Ric Flair. That is the perfect last chapter. He dies in the ring. Sounds bad, right? Ric Flair responded and said, for the first time, I totally agree with you that I would love to die in the ring. Now, if you're a promoter, are you scared to death of that? I mean, honestly, when I watched his last match, I got to tell you, there were times during that match, I wasn't sure he was going to make it out of that ring alive. Is it a good idea for him at this point to really have any activity in the ring? I mean, if I'm a promoter, you better have a hell of a life insurance policy somewhere.
Well, it's hard to say because, Tony Khan AEW will be promoting this. So I don't know. I don't want to really say anything that.
I just gave you the perfect out. I just gave it to you. Christian stops him. Because, I'd be more mad at Christian right now than I would be at Sting after saying that kind of stuff about me, which some of it is true. So now, my thing with Flair, now let me get Christian out of the way. Okay, come on, brother, you know what I mean? And now Christian stops it. And Christian gives Sting the last match and leave Christian strong in there, because he's going to be there.
I got to be honest, after the, after that whole segment, I did get the feeling that maybe we're going to see Christian and Sting is the final match possibly down the line. But there's a lot that can happen during that time because Edge has even said he's not quite sure what side he wants to play on, whether it's on Christian's side or if he wants to be on Sting's side. So there's still a story in there that we'll find out probably more about as these weeks come on. But it's a good little twist to a story and a good way to see Sting go out in retirement. And hopefully they do everything right.
They could also do Christian and Luchasaurus against Adam Copeland and Sting. That would be a hell of a finish match. Ric Flair, guest referee.